McClung. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We're good, Eric. Of course, Eric writes for KFFL.com, and you can follow Eric on Twitter at Eric McClung. And, Eric, we're going to Sonoma, one of the 2 road courses on the Sprint Cup circuit. There's not a whole lot of talk anymore about road course ringers. In fact, we had probably one of the top road course ringers on the show in hour number 1 tonight. Boris said, and he even says there's no such thing. Who are you liking at Sonoma?
Well, taking a look at the last 3 years at Sonoma, only three drivers have finished in the top 10 in all 3 of those races. And actually, Jimmy Johnson has the best average finish in that span of time. Now, on a road course, you probably aren't going to start Jimmy Johnson, in your league because he's so dominant at a bunch of other tracks. But I like his teammate Jeff Gordon a lot, and he, you mentioned the past years, the regular drivers really didn't take road coursing all that serious, but Jeff Gordon certainly did. He was very good, been very good for a long time on road courses. 6 straight top 10s, in fact, at Sonoma. Was a runner-up last year, and ran pretty well last week after pretty nightmarish type of start to the season. And then more than anybody, he is extremely desperate for wins and try to move up in the standings, try to get a wild card. And if they I'm sure they're going to try something maybe strategically, a little bit different from the rest of the field, which, we'll see quite a bit in road course races to try to steal a win. So whether they do it strategy-wise or just, driving through the field, I think Jeff Gordon, in terms of, elite-type drivers, I think is definitely a guy to target.
Hey, Eric, does Sonoma lend itself to more of that kind of try something unusual strategy than some other places do because of the fact that it is such a long race, such a long lap time around there?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so few pit stops. So you'll see a lot of guys just a couple laps into the race, short pit and do their first stop there, or some will try to drag it out as long as they can. So, you'll see typically one of those 2 strategies. So, just kind of whether they want to do it in 2 stops, 3 stops, or whatever, pretty much the way it lays out. And one guy actually, we talked about road course ringers. A guy who's actually coming back this week is Robbie Gordon, and he's been a guy over the years has tried some different strategies and has some varying degrees of success doing that. So on the C list in the Yahoo game, which we always talk about, rather than going with the Boris said or one of these, more of the ringer types, I think Robbie Gordon's return, I think, will be pretty beneficial for the C list.
Are all of those guys slotted into the C list, Eric? I mean, when you get these guys who are ringers, they putting them all in C in Yahoo?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know what the exact criteria is on Yahoo's end for who. Typically, the guys who make the chase the year before are on the A list, but I'm not sure what the criteria is for B versus C exactly where guys need to fall. But yeah, to answer your question, pretty much anybody who's added onto the entry list who's not a regular is going to end up on the C list. Like Dylan last week, he was a C list driver. Boris said will be, and there's a couple others. I was looking at the entry list a little bit earlier. So all those guys, if they're not already added in the Yahoo game, when they are added, will be C list drivers.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I would like I'd like Robbie Gordon in that race. I like Boris said in the race as well. He's in a good car this year. I think either one of those guys could certainly pull a top 10.
Yeah, in fact, sorry?
No, just go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, Robbie Gordon's recently 2010. He was the runner-up there. You remember he was running around on the set of tires that were almost about to blow up. So he still held on to finish as a runner-up. Yeah, the only issue was said, and he actually mentioned himself a little bit earlier. He's had quite a number of run-ins with some of the regulars, like Greg Biffle, Tony Stewart, some guys who maybe by whether it was his fault or not, got under their skin and kind of ended up paying the price for it. A couple of years ago, Red Bull brought in a Swedish driver, Matthias Ekström, who's running very well in the Red Bull car. Brad Kozlowski had enough of him and pretty much ran him right off the track. So, these road course guys, they can certainly, for 80-90% of the race, run very well. But once the pay window opens up, as it is, some of those guys will get knocked out of the way, and that's, I think, the big risk that you take with one of those guys. Yeah,
and it's not surprising. There's no consequence for the regulars because they're not going to see the guy again. Guys like Said and Ekstrom, they're going to get the one shot at it. Maybe they get another shot at Watkins Glen, but chances of retribution are pretty slim. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anybody in what would be normally considered the A list that you would stay away from with full dread?
Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, Kenseth is pretty bad road course kind of guy. I mentioned Jimmy Johnson. As tempting as it might be with the stats that he has, I don't think he necessarily would want to take him there. I think this is definitely a week where you could go a lot of different ways on the A list. I mentioned Jeff Gordon. He'll probably be a pretty popular pick though, just due to his history at the track. Brad Keselowski, though, I think is a guy who doesn't get a lot of play necessarily on the A list most weeks. But if you look at his resume on the Nationwide Series, he's been very good on road course races there. Last year was also very good for the first time in a Cup car, 10th at Sonoma, runner-up at Watkins Glen. So he's certainly a guy who's been good on road courses for a number of years, and I think he would be a good option to maybe pair him up with Jeff Gordon, in your preliminary roster on the A list.
Let me ask you about two guys that I don't have the list in front of me that I assume are on the B list. A.J. Allmendinger in the 22 and Jamie McMurray in the number 1. Both guys, I would think, good histories on road courses and decent picks.
Yeah, definitely underrated guys on the B list. Excuse me. I think in terms of the start, Marcus Ambrose, Juan Pablo Montoya, I think are pretty much going to be far and away the most started guys on the B list. So you certainly want to have some alternative guys to go with. If maybe you're playing from behind in your league and you don't want to start a guy who everybody else in your league is going with. In addition to the guys that you mentioned, I think some more sneaky guys. Clint Boyer has been very, very consistent in Sonoma over his career. Martin Truex Jr. last year, he had top 10 on both of the road course races. And don't forget about Kurt Busch. He is a B-list driver. He did win this race last year. And among all drivers, he has the best career average running position at Sonoma since Luke Data started in 2005. And, although he's not in the best car, in terms of speed and whatnot, that's not necessarily that big of a deal this week at Sonoma. He's had quite a number of issues, and this style of racing can certainly allow him, maybe a little bit more leeway and kind of take out some of that aggression and be able to get away with it. So I wouldn't overlook him either.
All right, with all the game playing things out the window, who's your pick to win this week, Eric?
Well, the last time I picked Brad Keselowski on your show, he won.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go with him again. Okay. As I mentioned, he's been good on road courses in the Nationwide Series for pretty much his entire time really in that series on all three of the tracks that they run at. And last year was very good on these types of tracks as well. So I think just his style, his mentality, I think will work out very well.
All right, he's Eric McClung. You can follow him on Twitter at Eric McClung. Read his fantasy racing stuff at KFFL.com and Fantasy Football Toolbox. Eric, thanks again for your time this week. Good luck with your picks this week, and we'll be following you as the weekend goes on.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, Eric McClung. All right, Bucko, who's your pick?
Well,
who'd you pick last week?
Junior.
Did you? You
Yeah,
did not.
I
Did he
did
pick
too.
Junior last week? Did he pick Junior last week?
I took Junior.
Wasn't
You didn't.
me.
I took
Wasn't
Junior.
me.
I took him to win. Junior to win.
Way to go.